Incógnito do colégio, Sr. Peter Marques falando, vamos para Assistindo Porcaria Posicionamento de questionável de câmera da webcam 9, dia 7 de 3 de 2025, e criei uma eu criei uma coisa nova aqui na UBS para fazer mais idiotice nesse canal lixo. Vou mostrar aqui, vou abrir o negócio aqui, ó. Estão vendo isso aqui que está selecionado? Isso aqui é assim, é para fazer gameplay de jogo ou de coisa que só tem como ver pelo celular. Tipo, dá pra fazer agora assim por causa disso? Ao vivo. Gameplay de Duolingo. Gameplay de joguinho de jogo de celular. Legal, né? Bacana. Dá pra. Deixa eu ver. Dá pra fazer isso. Só, né? Sinceramente, gameplay no Instagram me parece uma ideia meio lixo. E. O que mais que vai ter pra ver no negócio celular, né? Nada. Nada. Eu não lembro o resto dessa aqui, que é o Dan Burn the Witch, mas eu não lembro o começo. Eu não lembro o resto, tipo. Eu mal comecei a aprender The Burn the Witch. Tem que você tocar bem essa aqui, ó. solo. E certeza que essa música com certeza assustou um certo Marlon aí. Essa aqui é a única que sei tocar do Misfire. É a única. Sério, só você tocar essa do Misfire. Eu tô aprendendo. Eu esqueci muito em certas partes isso aqui, do único caminho. Bom, chega disso. Antes que eu fique na outra live tremendo tudo por dor muscular de ter trocado as cordas no caso, mas. E aí fica resolvido pra eu costurar. Vamos procurar porcaria agora. coceira no olho, velho. Ai, finalmente, nossa.
We're going to be taking a look at some of the lesser known income artifacts.
Tá meio alto, porra!
Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. You have to resurrect Dracula by going around the world and collecting his various body parts before putting them together. That's kind of what we're doing here today. We're just going to take a look at various cum artifacts from around the internet. We're making Dracula out of cum. The song Zero by the Smashing Pumpkins begins with the line, "My reflection, dirty mirror, there's no connection to myself." When the owner of the National Wrestling Alliance, Billy Corgan, wrote these lyrics, he probably didn't consider the possibility of staring at yourself in the mirror while jerking off. An act which, if anything, has an uncomfortable level of connection to yourself. Enter a Redditor named White Licorice. White Licorice was a rapper who befriended another rapper in his local scene. Eventually, they would become roommates during college. It was a comfortable enough setup, although, not perfect. He's white. His dad is from Haiti, though. Maybe he's like an eighth black or something? Not sure. We tried to get him to stop saying the N-word, but he refuses. Relatively early in their arrangement, White...
Não, aí já tem esquisitice de estadunidense aí, ó. Essa coisa aí, o cara é 1/8 negro. Fiquei tipo, puta que pariu. Essas estupidez, sabe? Que fala, meu, vocês estão descrevendo pessoa como se fosse um cachorro.
Licorice would notice a stink in their home, leading him to find out that his roommate had been coming in a box. Which he immediately told them, you gotta cut that shit out. Now I know what you're thinking, and a Redditor named Seaman Slayer had the same thought. Is it the Cumbox guy? I didn't know about the Cumbox guy. Based on the details of these stories, I think it was a different guy, and you'll find in this video that it's pretty common for people to enjoy the same artifacts. In any case, White Licorice thinks he's nipped the Cumbox problem in the bud, and the roommate comes to White Licorice and his other roommate with a big announcement. He eventually just told us one night, like, "Yo, I have this mirror in my room that I've been coming on all year." I think it was a big joke to him. And here's the mirror. Reminds me of when Kevin Malone spilled his chili everywhere. How'd he manage to hide this the whole time? You see, the mirror was placed on the back of the door to his room, which opened to the inside. So whenever they walked into his room, the mirror would be hidden just out of view. They're not quite sure why he did it. Licorice thought maybe it was just a joke, although as another user named Fiji Artesia noted, so for an entire year, he's jizzing on this mirror and thinking, man, this joke is going to be hilarious when my roommates find it in a year. White Licorice would then use all the attention his post was getting to promote his song, I Hate Some Cops. So I got a couple of desk artifacts over here, one of which is kinda lost media. But let's start with the first. In a thread on Ask Reddit, bosses of Reddit, what's the craziest thing an employee has done while at work? Did you fire him/her? Shit just got shitty weighs in. An employee constantly masturbated in his cubicle under his desk. The reason I say constantly is because when he was actually caught by a female employee and reported, another boss went to look at his cubicle. What he found was absolutely appalling. So the boss thinks, you know what? I'm gonna go look for the cum. Normally you'd probably just assume this guy who's
cara ali. Será que tem porra aí mesmo? Eu vou conferir.
Off of work would clean up after himself, if anything, to just not get caught. But I guess the boss had a hunch, so he's wearing his nice business suit, gets down on his knees to look for cum, and sure enough, he confirms his suspicions. Under his desk, there was cum everywhere. The guy always shot his gentleman's relish right under his desk so it would hit the wood. He worked there for over 10 years. The dick spit was so thick after all the countless times of ejaculation, parts of it were black and growing mold. He covered the smell by always having some type of air freshener going. See, that's what all these other guys should have thought of. We should have taken the hint sooner. In the end, he was fired. Come desk number 2. Neroxella was splitting a dorm room in college. He posts to r/WTF. Found this in my roommate's drawer. Big, smiley, flat face with big eyes. He's not quite sure what it's supposed to be, but the consensus is, yeah, that's cum. And based on what I've seen in the course of doing this channel, I'm like 99% sure that's cum. But Neroxella isn't quite sure and adds a few details. I still have no idea what this is, but I will make a follow-up post. I really hope it isn't what you all think it is. I wasn't really in the room with him that much since I spent most of my time at my girlfriend's dorm, but all I know is that whenever I was there, he was playing LOL, yelling in Russian, and eating in Chinese. The update soon comes with more images of the whole room and the surrounding area. Curiously, he notes that there was no smell, which clearly is a point against it being cum, but maybe the guy just had a very clean diet or something. Although one person suggests it could have been chewing tobacco spit. Perhaps the most haunting suggestion was by Null Painter. Dude, I think I just figure out what's going on here, and I don't think OP is going to like it. Maybe someone else already has said this, but given the position of the stain, the spread and direction of the layers, and that he'd have a hell of a hard time sitting down and getting it to arc like that, your roommate was standing up whenever he unloaded inside his desk, downward and inward into the drawer. His desk faces your bed. He may have been watching you sleep while he did this, apparently every night since he first moved in. Still, Neroxella was not convinced of what this actually was. And by now, the roommate was long gone. What do you guys think it is? I think it's cum. And now, Cumdesk the Third. Redditor Crippled Kraut worked with an oil and gas engineer that in his opinion was getting paid way too much for what they were actually doing, which as he recalls was mostly just hanging out in his office with his wife. He noted that his office, which was a bit far away from everyone else's, did have a bit of a smell to it, but he chalked that up to the fact that he ate a lot of Indian food. Then one day, this guy gets fired. They're cleaning out his office, and this is what they find underneath his desk. A bunch of high-impact splatters there. It all looks kind of recent though, so either this was a new habit, or maybe this guy actually cleaned up after himself occasionally. And finally, Cumdesk the Fourth, the Lost Cumdesk. All that seems to remain of this one is a single post on r/Reddit's Museum of Filth. Guy comes on his work desk for years, which goes to a post on a now banned subreddit, Jackoff Confessions. Unfortunately, this thread isn't archived, so we can only piece things together from people's reactions in the Museum of Filth thread, with a few saying that this picture almost made them throw up. We also have a piece of how the original poster explained the smell, reposted by Google Earthlings. Believe it or not, I wasn't the only eccentric person in the office. It very well may have smelled had it not been for three factors. My boss, the owner, had no sense of smell as he lost it all after suffering a concussion. He also had a nasty habit of smoking in the office and relentlessly burning sage. And the office already smelled of mold because of a water leak from the floor above our office. The leak nearly killed the server I built, not to mention the dodgy electrical work. He also mentioned something to the effect of he jerked off at work because he didn't have a dad or something like that, but that's about all we know about the fourth desk. Rav Mysterin visits r/Make Me Suffer with a special treat. I have a feeling you guys are gonna like this. This is the
É a meinha da porra!
difference
É a meinha da punheta!
between a normal gray sock and my 5-year-old cum plus tonsil stone sock. And you can see the comparison here with the cum sock having a classic burnt pizza crust look. And I realize some of you may be unaware of what a tonsil stone is. Tonsil stones, more scientifically called tonsilloliths, are these lumps of waste that form in your tonsils when you're sick. Some people get them all the time, some people never get them, but they always smell absolutely vile. So just imagine all the other artifacts in this video and magnify the smell by 100. As he described it, it smelled like a corpse's asshole, and he has to wash his hands several times after using it. Unless, he just uses gloves, which he did some of the time. He never really explained why he was shooting tonsil stones into the same sock he nutted into, but he did explain the general concept. My idea was that if I ever got a girlfriend, I've realized at this point that I probably won't, I will give this thing a Viking funeral with the boat and everything. It's basically my virginity horcrux. Shirts are a pretty obvious one. I mean, they're always just kind of around.
Tinha que ser nerd que gosta de Harry Potter, né?
And sure enough, there's plenty of these. For example, you have this one user on 4chan who identified himself as Kara. He'd been using a pair of shirts as cum rags for the past 3 years until one day he accidentally left them out and his mother found them. She demanded that he throw them out, which he did immediately, but then at night he took them back in to take some pictures. I had to wait until nightfall to take them out of the trash can since the neighbors don't like it when I take stuff out of the trash can. Apparently it's a thing he does with some regularity.
Meu Deus do céu. Não, o cara ficou gozando na camiseta. Daí a mãe dele encontrou a camiseta, falou pra ele jogar fora. Ele esperou até o anoitecer para pegar a camiseta usada, jogar no lixo de volta e vestir ela.
Even though he was sad to see them go, he said it was also kind of a good thing since he had been thinking about trying a nofap. I guess he felt like he needed the shirts to get started. There's a few other of these that turn up from time to time, like this one attributed to someone named Heil KC that kinda looks like it's forming scabs. But probably the greatest cum shirt story comes from Finland. In February of 2015, a user of the Finnish image board Ilauta posted a shirt that he had allegedly used for 8 to 9 years for what he had estimated to be about 4,500 loads. Other posters had ideas for what he could do with it, like cutting a piece of the shirt off and making tea out of it. Ultimately, what he would wind up doing is scraping some of it off and snorting a line of it.
Ele fez essa música aqui, basicamente, ó.
Feel like I could convince esoteric health Twitter that scraping off your old dried cum, making it a powder and snorting it could give you some kind of alpha male powers. Of course, the finished poster didn't describe any of that effect. He just said it burned his nose and tasted like snot. And those are today's cum artifacts.
If you grew up listening to rock or metal, chances are you had people say things to you like, you listen to that devil music? Rah, 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 Metallica, kill your mother, kill your father. My favorite Metallica song, by the way. One time, I had a kid ask me if Slipknot was a t-shirt brand, which was actually pretty funny, to be honest. And something else that I heard a lot about was the idea that Marilyn Manson wanted to kill himself on stage, or he made his fans kill animals at his shows, or he had his bottom ribs removed so he could blow himself. So for today's...
esse é clássico. Marilyn Manson tirou 2 costelas pra chupar o próprio...
video, let's take a look at Marilyn Manson performing autofellatio. Strange rumors about Marilyn Manson were kind of like the Chuck Norris facts of the 90s. He was basically the biggest mainstream incarnation of what it meant to be a weird, creepy dude, or was at least perceived that way. So people, especially the ones who weren't fans of his music, would just ascribe the weirdest shit to him. I mean, if people thought Metallica, who are as safe as it gets, were making songs about killing your parents, what would these same people think that a guy like Marilyn Manson was possibly up to? It had to be some real, wild, unthinkable shit. And all these rumors would travel from school to school around the world like that weird S thing. For example, there was the rumor that on Halloween of 1996, he was going to kill himself at the climax of his own show. Obviously, that didn't happen, although he came damn close a couple of years ago in New York. That was when one of his stage props fell and crushed him in the middle of his set. And you know, because of those rumors all those years ago, people even thought that was staged, but it was real. He got hurt real bad, but thankfully he survived. And as for the Halloween show, although there was a bomb threat, nothing wound up happening from it. The show came and went, and then the rumor evolved into people saying Marilyn Manson's greatest dream is to kill himself at one of his shows, but you don't know what show it's gonna be. Similarly, there was another rumor, one that kind of takes after rumors about Ozzy Osbourne and Alice Cooper, that either he killed animals on stage at his shows, or he wouldn't start his show unless fans killed the animals themselves. This one circulated a lot through chain emails. Let me read one of them for you. Dear whomever may read this, today is March 30th, 1999, and today I heard about something that has to stop. You all know of the sick person named Marilyn Manson. I know someone who went to one of his concerts. He is abusing animals. He threw several puppies into the crowd before his show. Then he told the crowd that he would not start the show until the pups were killed. So, in conclusion, several puppies are killed at each Marilyn Manson concert. This is a sick thing that has to stop now, and we are the only ones who can stop it. This guy is a sick person. I am sending this to everyone on my buddy list, and if you could please send this to at least 10 people, we could make a difference. If people realize what this sick man is doing, then less people will go to his concerts, and then when nobody comes, he can't kill any more puppies. So please, by sending this, you are saving the lives of a couple puppies. And let me just tell you that if you don't send this, you are a self-centered loser. This one to me almost reads a little bit like satire, but I guess it was convincing enough that it was believable for some people. It's obvious that if this were going down, it would be impossible to hide. In this time period, Marilyn Manson is playing 20,000 cap venues. Surely, at least one of those 20,000 people, including venue staff who don't necessarily give a shit about Marilyn Manson, would have a problem like that and say something. But I can't even act that smug about these ones because the next one got me. Like, I literally thought this rumor was true until like maybe a year or two ago. I'm talking about the rumor that Marilyn Manson got real breast implants for the cover of Mechanical Animals. Which, unpopular, well, I don't even know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. I think it might be. But that's actually my favorite Manson album. I mean, I think Antichrist Superstar has higher highs, Irresponsible Hate Anthem, Beautiful People, Tourniquet, those songs are untouchable. But beginning to end, I feel like Mechanical Animals is the only one that I'll really sit down with like that. But anyway, the cover of Mechanical Animals, he's got these tits. And the music video for Dope Show comes out and he's still got those tits. A few months pass and he puts out a music video for I Don't Like the Drugs But the Drugs Like Me, and now his tits are gone. So what happened to his tits? I'll let this old Angel Fire website, The Auditorium, explain. 1. Did Marilyn Manson really have breast implants? Only temporarily. Reconstructive plastic surgery for the photo shoot for the new album Mechanical Animals. In other words, he only had breasts for a certain amount of time. They were removed after the photo shoot. Marilyn wanted to have that androgynous look, sort of sexless and sexy at the same time. Look at the album cover, you'll see what I mean. In parts of the Dope Show video, he wears a bodysuit. So this is a page that's all about clearing up misconceptions about Marilyn Manson, and the top answer is confirming the fake rumor that he had real breasts. And I guess part of why I believe this one was that compared to a lot of the other stuff he was accused of, this one was a lot more realistic. I mean, this is the thing people actually do. It wasn't even that many years later when a guy who actually did get breast implants because he lost a bet went on The Man Show back when Jimmy Kimmel didn't suck. But unfortunately, yeah, this one was fake. He wasn't wearing the bodysuit just in the music video, but always. The way that website explained it reminds me of how I used to think 2 of the Ninja Turtles were real when I was a little kid, because TV Guide only listed actors for 2 of them. Then there was the rumor that Marilyn Manson was Paul from the Wonder Years all grown up. Wouldn't that be something? The archetypal nerdy kid grows up and becomes the world's craziest shock rock icon. Alright, I kinda believe this one for a little bit too. So the Wonder Years ends in 1993. Josh Saviano, the actor for Paul, is never seen on TV again. Marilyn Manson's major label debut was in 1994. And they did kind of have similar facial features. Although now that I look, they actually don't really look that similar. I specifically remember hearing this one in the locker room in junior high, and back then I didn't have a phone to look it up. So I guess I kind of just took my fuzzy memory of what Paul looked like and was kind of like, I guess they kind of do look similar. The thing is, although Marilyn Manson's major label debut was in 1994, his band was actually put together in 1989. This was during the run of the Wonder Years. Here's a picture of what they looked like. So this would have been the same guy. In fact, what actually wound up happening with Josh Saviano was he quit the TV industry to become a lawyer. And in 2013, he actually spoke to Yahoo about this rumor. I actually think it was one of the very first internet rumors, because it was 1994. The internet was just sort of becoming mainstream, particularly on college campuses. It was just perfect timing and the perfect storm. He said that at some point, he was actually planning to run up on stage at a Manson show and put a rest to the rumor once and for all. But now he's glad that he didn't do that because he's come to love the fact that some people still do think he's really Marilyn Manson. Of course, the biggest Marilyn Manson rumor of all is that he got his bottom 2 ribs removed to suck his own dick. And there's a lot of things to consider here. First of all, if you could suck your own dick, would it even be that great? Great enough to have a major surgical procedure? People put sucking their own dick on this pedestal, like it's this amazing thing to aspire to, but I'm not convinced. Cause in their heads, like they're just like barely reaching it and then that's it, you're in. You just touch the tip like E.T. I mean the finger thing, there's no sucking your own dick scene in E.T. You've gotta be able to get a sizable portion in there. Like you got that Saturday Night Live sketch where Will Ferrell's taking yoga to learn how to suck his own dick and then he achieves it. But then you nut and what happens? Well, oh my god, you don't know what to fucking do with it, so it just flops out. It's awkward. And this theory is backed up by a post that...
Esse cara falou com muita... Qual o termo? Esqueci qual o termo. Tá merda, agora qual o termo, velho? Termo. Assim, não, eu lembrei. Não, ele falou com muita propriedade. Ele com certeza já tentou chupar o próprio pinto.
That I found on Reddit. Scruffy Nerd finishes in his own mouth, spills it like a goofball. Found on r/autofellatio, a subreddit dedicated to sucking your own dick. Obviously, I can't show you the posts from there, but here's a sampling. Is self-sucking gay? Keep injuring myself. Can't bend my back. So I managed to make contact, but I have a minor concern. 2 property managers walked in on me trying to suck my own dick. I still shudder from the thought of it to this day. Repost. A quick browse of r/autofellatio will show you that this is in fact possible without rib removal. In fact, I'm not even so sure that rib removal would even help. Because, it's not really your ribs that are in your way, it's more of like an overall mobility thing. Like, basically, the Will Ferrell character is right, and yoga is the path to blowing yourself. That's not to say that people don't ever get elective rib removal surgery, but it tends to be more tied towards waist training. Women with tiny waists from waist training have been accused of getting ribs removed as far back as the 1800s, although there's no evidence of that having ever happened back then. And considering the state of medicine at that time, it would have been exceptionally dangerous to get something like that done. More so than it is now. The accusations probably mostly just came from the fact that when you look at like a really small, trained waist, it just looks unnatural, like some kind of uncanny valley thing. But that being said, there are some known cases where this has actually happened. One of them being Amanda Lepore, who traveled to Mexico not to get her ribs removed, but to have them broken and pushed in further to create a smaller waistline. Another being Pixie Fox, who had 6 ribs removed in Indiana. Her surgeon, Dr. Barry Epley, spoke to Fox and mentioned that this is a procedure that just does happen from time to time. Rib removal is almost an urban myth dating back to the 1970s when Cher was rumored to have had it. But it is done, he said. I just did a rib removal surgery on another woman after Pixie who removed even more ribs than her. It just seems extreme because it is the only plastic surgery other than liposuction that removes normal body parts. So it seems extreme. As for Marilyn Manson, he commented on this rumor somewhat recently. In an article for Q magazine, he answered a few fan-submitted questions. This one came from a reader named Keith Rathbone. For years, it was rumored that you'd had a rib removed to achieve self-fellatio. Obviously that's nonsense, but have you ever tried to suck your own cock? To which Manson responded, wow, does Keith get money if I answer this? No comment, Keith, you cunt. Nearly a decade before that, he addressed it in the book The Long Road Out of Hell, the autobiography he co-wrote with Neil Strauss. If I really got my ribs removed, I would have been busy sucking my own dick on the Wonder Years instead of chasing Winnie Cooper. The year before that book, however, in another interview also of Neil Strauss, but this time for Rolling Stone magazine, he addressed the rumors as a whole. For a solid year, there was a rumor that I was going to commit suicide on Halloween, says Manson. He is sitting in a hot tub. Yes, a hot tub, in his hometown of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I started to think, maybe I have to kill myself. Maybe that's what I was supposed to do. Then, when we were performing on Halloween, there was a bomb threat. I guess someone thought they would take care of the situation for me. It was one of those moments where chaos had control. The article goes on to dismiss a lot of the rumors and talks about how a lot of them come from a place of Marilyn Manson being misunderstood, not just by people who disliked his music, but also sometimes by his fans themselves. That being said, there's no way he's never tried to suck his own dick, at least once.
December 13th, 1980.
Esse cara fala com muita propriedade. Ele com certeza já fez isso. Ou pelo menos já tentou.
But also sometimes by his fans themselves. That being said, there's no way he's never tried to suck his own dick, at least once.
December 13th, 1984. Perhaps one of the most cruel videos to ever hit the internet. A tall, skinny man stands before a karate class, claiming that he was trained by Jesus.
Hell!
We're going to be taking a look at some of the lesser known cum artifacts. In Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, you have to resurrect Dracula by going around the world and collecting his various body parts before putting them together. That's kind of what we're doing here.
Instead of chasing Winnie Cooper. The year before that book, however, in another interview also of Neil Strauss, but this time for Rolling Stone magazine, he addressed the rumors as a whole. For a solid year, there was a rumor that I was going to commit suicide on Halloween, says Manson. He is sitting in a hot tub. Yes, a hot tub, in his hometown of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I started to think, maybe I have to kill myself. Maybe that's what I was supposed to do. Then, When we were performing on Halloween, there was a bomb threat. I guess someone thought they would take care of the situation for me. It was one of those moments where chaos had control. The article goes on to dismiss a lot of the rumors and talks about how a lot of them come from a place of Marilyn Manson being misunderstood, not just by people who disliked his music, but also sometimes by his fans themselves. That being said, there's no way he's never tried to suck his own dick, at least once.
December 13th, 1984. Perhaps one of the most cruel videos to ever hit the internet. A tall, skinny man stands before a karate class, claiming that he was trained by Jesus Christ himself. The owner of the dojo pretends that the man, who is clearly mentally unwell, has been brought to the class to teach Jesus' spiritual martial arts techniques. And then, under the teacher's watch, a student beats the man to near death, leaving him making sounds reminiscent of Chechclear and dragged out behind the karate studio. It's a video that the internet has investigated many times throughout the years, but to this day, it remains unsolved. So for this episode of Tales from the Internet, let's take a look at what happened to Kung Fu Guy. The story begins with a video on YouTube simply titled, Jesus Taught Me. It was posted on April 1st of 2009, but it went unnoticed for months. When someone finally did stumble upon it though, they were horrified. It appeared to show a martial arts student assaulting a mentally unwell homeless man. The footage begins with the dojo sensei egging them on. He tells the victim to repeat what was said off camera. We'll refer to the victim from this point as Kung Fu Guy. Kung Fu Guy claims that Jesus taught him karate, and he offers to demonstrate. The class snickers in the background as the leader instructs his top student to step forward, but just as Kung Fu Guy says he doesn't want to fight, the black belt kicks him in the groin. This escalates as the two trade blows before clinching on the floor. With the man beneath him, the student starts mercilessly punching him. He then drags the victim by his hair and hits him in the face, and it only gets worse from there. Kung Fu Guy is eventually pushed back to the ground as the assailant kicks his head over and over. He desperately tries to get up, only to get hit with a knee. This causes him to keel over, seemingly unconscious. And still the black belt doesn't relent. Rather than show any mercy, he repeatedly stomps on the man's head. And by the end, the victim is rasping in heavy, labored breaths as his head drips with blood. Off screen, the instructor can be heard saying, "Drag him out the back door." The scene then cuts to a later point in time. The instructor shows a trail of blood on the floor. He then has the camera zoom in to show more stains on the back door. Needless to say, it was a really disturbing piece of footage, and it's unclear whether or not the victim survived. Regardless, this seemed like evidence in a really serious crime. And because of this, in early August, a user shared the clip to the martial arts forum Bullshido. They hoped someone would take interest in conducting a further examination. And the thread very quickly flooded with people who were completely disgusted by this video and wanted justice for this man. And that begins with trying to figure out where this video came from. The tape was old, with a date stated in the video, December 13th, 1984. But if this video had been made over 2 decades ago, why did it only just surface now? The answer became more clear after investigating the channel itself. There were 24 other uploads, which were all archives from the same dojo. This included a lecture that gave insight into the school's values.
The person wises off to you.
And
If they come through that door, it's open season.
the instructor also threatened to stomp out students if they were gay.
If a person touches you, he's either or he's stupid. So if you're come in today, if I find out later, I'll stop the rest.
And these videos contained enough to identify the dojo and its sensei. It had been located at a strip mall in Dumfries, Virginia, and run by a man named Bobby Joe Blythe. Given that the uploader's username was Bobby Joe Blythe 007, wasn't hard to figure out the rest. The name's Blythe. Bobby Joe Blythe. People don't typically upload potentially incriminating videos of themselves, so he must have viewed the assault on that man as an accomplishment. But as more and more negative comments flooded in, Bobby became defensive. In one of these comments, a user states, "That dude snapped. Looks to me like somebody's lost control." Bobby replied that if this had lasted any longer, he'd have dropped both of them. I was very disappointed with my guy, and he paid for a week after that. That video will be coming up soon. Eventually, he updated the description to include a more detailed recounting of the fight. He claimed that Kung Fu Guy had actually been a public nuisance hours prior. This guy was in Pizza Hut eating off the plates of others. So, the manager ran him out with a pistol, Later on, officers were called to remove him from the pharmacy after reaching into customers' purses. Then he visited a store and told management he planned on teaching in my dojo and that Jesus taught him. Between the two cuts, they had apparently thrown the man in the dumpster, and he was only pulled out by police. The last Bobby had heard, Kung Fu Guy was being held involuntarily at a mental institution in Salem. This elaboration did little to turn the tides, because this was simply his justification for the act. A lot of people also suspected that Sensei was lying about the victim being alive. His injuries just seemed too severe. Bobby offhandedly mentioned having a bodyguard company at the time. This company was later identified as Action Investigative Services. This led them to his personal details, which they used to track down his current whereabouts. The 63-year-old had retired as a teacher, and he was now at this point living in Fresno, California. And they used this information to uncover his Facebook page along with other social media profiles. As you've probably guessed, these accounts very quickly were bombarded with hate comments from the mob, and thus Bobby deleted his entire online presence, including the original YouTube upload. But the internet, of course, never forgets, and dozens of copies were uploaded on YouTube. And this campaign wouldn't stop as word of this deranged assault would spread further. Before long, it was in front of the entire web, from LiveLeak to Something Awful. There's even a website made documenting their discoveries in this investigation, Justice for Kung Fu Guy. Though they quickly found Bobby, he wasn't their main target. The actual assailant in the video up to this point remained unidentified. And through their investigation, they would conclude that this was a student named William Dennis. This individual moved to Florida and was facing charges at the time for domestic abuse. That being said, it is worth clarifying that this link is less definitive in comparison to Bobby Joe Blythe. Because, you know, Bobby admitted to the whole thing while William has not. By late August, the tape was so widespread that news outlets picked up the story. KMPH would air a segment that revealed that it caught the attention of local, state, federal, and military investigators. They also included an interview with Fresno Police Chief Carlo Mestas, who said his department was assisting in this case.
Investigators say although Blythe is not seen personally hurting the victim, he could still face legal troubles.
No, he didn't do anything about it, and he had control of it. Since that was one of his students, you can almost say that he was the one that directed it.
Mestas went so far as to said that the victim's injuries looked so severe that he believed he was probably dead.
Having seen him get stomped, his head stomped as many times as he did, I would be surprised that he survived it or did not at least have major brain damage. It's a cold case. You know, there's going to be a lot of work it's going to be done by other agencies. They're going to probably have to look for missing persons cases, 25 years back. Who knows, hopefully we can get to the bottom of this.
But this was contradicted a week later when the Washington Post reported on the ordeal. A police chief in California went on local television vowing investigations into what he called a cold case. Except the case isn't cold, and the man wasn't killed. We appreciate that the video was sent to us and that people saw it and were concerned. Captain Ronald Mackey of the Dumfries Police Department said that the video appears to be real, but that police have confirmed the victim was not killed, since he was interviewed after the fact. So I spoke to the victim and he was okay. That should be the end of it, right? Not exactly. The article goes on to state that officials were still unable to determine the victim's name. That's because their investigation into the incident was minimal. The Washington Post also interviewed Chuck Feldbush, a retired policeman who once patrolled Dumfries. He recalled Kung Fu Guy as a vagrant who lived in the woods. The man often committed crimes with the intent of getting caught to guarantee a roof and meals. Days after the incident, Feldbush noticed him limping and severely beaten. But the victim wasn't cooperative and didn't want to press charges. Because of this, the felony assault was overlooked. Although the police had heard of this tape's existence, they didn't see it until the public did. If they had, he said that they'd have pursued it as far as they could. But it was too late now. No one remembered the man's name. Following this, local police continued their efforts to identify him. They examined informations on unidentified bodies from the time, but nothing turned up. But while the search proved unsuccessful, it inadvertently unearthed a completely new victim. This man claimed that members of the same dojo invited him to display his fighting style back in the 80s. The next thing he remembers, he's waking up in the back of an ambulance. This reveals that what had happened to Kung Fu Guy wasn't an isolated incident. For all we know, they could have been attacking people regularly and filming all of it. And I guess as much was said in the lectures.
If they come through that door, it's open season.
Unfortunately, this story never reached a conclusion, and these crimes slowly faded from the public's consciousness. Nobody has ever faced any consequences for what happened here, and the victim was never identified. And because of this, his fate is unclear. Although the police officer recalled seeing him severely beaten after the assault had happened, he could have easily died weeks or even months later due to complications from these injuries. Over the years, there's been quite a few attempts to get interest back into this case, but truthfully, there just seems to be no new leads. It happened so long ago, and he was homeless, so people didn't really account for him. With that being said, there's still one aspect that I've neglected to mention. It was pointed out pretty early on in the original investigation that many of the details Bobby shared indicated a connection with the local police. For example, mentioning how he was kicked out of Pizza Hut and reaching into women's purses. These were anecdotes that Feldbush relayed later, as he self-admittedly knew both Blythe and the victim. This led many to posit that perhaps this assault was overlooked intentionally. This argument was outlined on Reddit by Sailormouth. Though I'm not one to believe in very many police conspiracies, I have to wonder, if this is a small town, how many of their police force trained at this particular dojo? In response, a user replied with evidence that Bobby had a military background. He seemed to have served in the Marine Corps and participated in the Vietnam War. They concluded, it seems like his main customers were not housewives looking for an exercise class, but bodyguards, cops, and others with a professional need for martial arts training. But at that point, it's all people just taking guesses about things. The connections might actually go deeper than that. In a post from the original Bullshido thread, a user found Bobby in an episode of the Today Show about female bodyguards. They state one of the women was the county sheriff's wife. It was explained that she was a student at his dojo. This is reaffirmed by other posters, though this video itself is no longer available. To be clear, this too is all just speculation. It's not close to definitive evidence. And honestly, whether or not the police had ties to Bobby Joe Blythe, they failed to do their job regardless. It's wild to think about how many cases there are like these. What people are allowed to get away with so long as it's targeted at the right people. And it's not like Bobby had hidden it either. Remember, he uploaded this himself. If he had been a bit more self-aware, this crime would have went completely unnoticed. And it makes you wonder how many incidents there are like this out there, just sitting on a VHS tape in someone's closet, never to see the light of day again. Maybe one day there'll be some kind of breakthrough that brings closure to this story, but if there was to be any justice, it should have happened nearly 30 years ago. Gambling has a way of just making everything a little bit more interesting. I'm not only talking about the odd game of poker or blackjack either. Like personally, I'm not the biggest sports fan, but if I got a little something riding on the game, maybe I can be. Same goes for politics. I mean, who hasn't made a buck or two betting on the elections? And when it's stuff you actually do like already, forget about it. Like say, the TV show Breaking Bad. And you know what? Money gets boring sometimes. What if, instead of gambling with money, you gambled with piss? For today's episode of Tales from the Internet, let's take a look at the guy who drank his own pee because of Breaking Bad. Now, before I get into the actual story, there's a bit of background I have to explain from Breaking Bad. So if you haven't seen the show yet, you know, the spoilers ahead. The fourth season focuses on the power struggle between Walt and Gus Fring. It becomes a dangerous game as Walt fights to survive. Jesse is given the task of poisoning their boss using a ricin-filled cigarette. Yet, he hesitates when Gus shows favoritism towards him. This causes a rift between the previously loyal partners. And with his closest ally gone, everything seems hopeless. But then, Jesse's girlfriend calls him in a panic. Her son, Brock, has been hospitalized with a serious illness. Jesse realizes that the ricin cigarette is missing. He suspects that Walt is behind this and confronts him at gunpoint. However, Walt convinces Jesse of his innocence. He then claims that Gus is the one who framed him for this exact situation. They then conspire together to eliminate the ruthless kingpin. This is where viewers were left to hang when the episode End Times aired on October 2nd, 2011. And with a single episode left in the season, there was fervent debate over what would happen next. The most heated debate centered around whether or not Walt actually did poison Brock. That was the case with the thread posted to the Breaking Bad subreddit. After rewatching episode 12, I am convinced that Walt poisoned Brock. The OP points out several scenes, including one in which Walt stares at a poisonous plant. While most just discussed the actual theory, a post from a user named Paging Craig stood out. If Walt did it, I'll drink my own piss. Immediately, people took him up on this offer. Can I hold you to this? This will be brought up again if you don't. Now, it wouldn't be right without fair stakes. Thankfully, a user named Frank Reynolds stepped up to the bat. This meant that either way, someone was drinking piss. Shortly after, a thread was created to discuss the competition, and they attempted to ensure that the outcome couldn't be faked. There will be urine consumption. I vote that whoever loses must post a video. In said video, you will pee into a cup of sorts and drink it all in one take. No cuts in between. I love the internet. The problem is, you can use apple juice or something similar and we would be none the wiser. What if he uses a fake dick? Test the pH levels. It's unclear if Craig knew his declaration would be taken so seriously, but the pressure mounted as the moderators backed the bet. The subreddit is going to require a video of your comeuppance, should you be proven wrong. Another commented, I will go on record saying that the r/Breaking Bad mods fully support this ridiculous contest. This affirmed that if they didn't follow through, they would be banned. Of course, that didn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Realistically, if one of them backed out and got banned, they could just make a new account to post on, and in any case, nobody would really remember in a week or so. Yet the two parties were insistent on their wager. Frank replied that he was a man of his word. However, he stipulated that his man bits wouldn't be seen as he had learned that lesson already. Which I feel like that's kind of a lesson you can only learn once, because past that everyone's just like, dick is old news, buddy, nobody cares anymore. In any case, this sparked some controversy as people felt that they couldn't be sure unless his genitals were in the frame. How will people be sure it's actual pee and not one of those urinator systems with the clamp and the tube hidden? In response, a user questioned if they'd feel differently if one of them were a girl. They then suggested they turn their back just enough to see both the stream and the cup, and these questions led them to follow Craig into other subreddits. He was asked about specifics in a completely different community. Hey, are you going to actually piss into a cup then drink it on video? So we're going to see the production of urine and the drinking part? You don't think you're going to vomit after doing it, or that the video will go viral? He replied bluntly, I don't know. It depends on what happens on Sunday. Later he clarified that he'd pee into the glass on camera. Strangely enough, all this attention led to a third person to join in. I am willing to drink my own piss if Walt didn't do it as well. Screen cap away, gentlemen. It won't be an epic switch like Huel did either. He pointed to his history of following up on bets on Reddit. When the Pats scored 34 against the Colts, he posted a picture of himself in drag. Honestly, considering that we already had two sides of the bet accounted for, I feel like this guy just wanted an excuse to drink his pee in public. But now with 3 different individuals offering to ingest urine for the cause, the stakes were rising. There was a concern they could get out of it using semantics. The loser is going to pull a semantic out, like, Walt didn't actually do it, Saul did it on Walt's order, or he poisoned him with ricin, not the plant claimed in the post. Frank disputed this by broadening the terms right then and there, but most just continued to debate Walt's innocence. It's honestly kind of interesting to look back on what they thought at the time. I honestly do not think Walt did it. It's one of the more ridiculous fad conspiracy theories. The community was restless, waiting anxiously for answers, and they remained on edge until October 9th, when the finale finally aired. Needless to say, it didn't disappoint. Face Off remains the 3rd highest rated episode of the series to this day. The only 2 above it wouldn't air until a year later. It delivered an intense season-long build-up while executing an iconic villain in perhaps one of the most memorable deaths we'd ever seen on TV before. And in spite of how reprehensible Walt had become, it made you root for him. Yet, as viewers celebrated his victory, the show hit them with a curveball. The final shot cuts to his backyard as the camera slowly pans left. This reveals a lily of the valley plant, which Walt used to poison Brock. Upon this revelation, the subreddit was quickly filled with posts about the bet. They were eager to see if Craig would deliver. The moderator even sent him a message to be read after the finale. Hello, Paging Craig. This is awkward. We need you to up your fluid intake and get your video camera ready. In order to keep your word, you'll be drinking your piss for the enjoyment of strangers on the internet. Bet you didn't see that coming when you thought about what you'd be doing with your life a few years back. Please message the mods and let us know whether you'll be planning on keeping up your side of the bet. We'll move on from there. Hey, at least you'll be internet famous, right? This flood upset a lot of people because it was tied to such an important plot point. The outcome was an immediate spoiler for anyone familiar with the bet. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was trying to avoid spoilers for a TV show that I hadn't watched yet, I would simply not browse the subreddit until I saw it. In any case, I'm willing to bet that whoever was mad about it got over it pretty quickly, given that they weren't expected to chase it with urine. An hour later, Craig returned with an update. He decided to edit his original comment instead of making a new post in order to minimize spoilers. And he would, in fact, deliver. Edit. So as not to spoil anything for anyone on the subreddit, did I have to drink my own piss? Well, since I can't get spoilers to work, I assume people who come here know the outcome. Yes, I did. And Walt is a bastard, lol. Time to eat crow and drink my own piss. Tasted worse than I expected. He then included a link to the video. It's clear that, regardless of losing, he was distraught by the news. The account was named Walt Harms Kids, and the video, Walt is evil, better drink my own piss. It's only a minute long, but I'm not sure if YouTube will let me play the entire thing. The footage begins with Craig showing off a cup. He places it in the middle of his bathtub to minimize spillage, then he starts to pee. It's pretty messy though, I can't tell if he has bad aim or did that on purpose. Maybe he decided he'd poured him.
Tá, boa noite. Boa noite. Até amanhã.
Himself enough. As the stream tapers, Craig bends over and picks up the urine-filled glass. He reflects on his prediction, admitting that he was 100% wrong. Finally, after showing it to the camera one last time, he downs it all in one shot. The community erupted as truly no one knew that he'd actually do it. It was a mixture of both shock and praise that he actually kept his word. But most of all, they were just concerned with how yellow it was. You need to drink more water, son. His piss is yellower than Tuco's pre-Walt meth. Ugh. It got to the point that Craig had to explain himself. I drank like a quarter gallon all day to make it dark, so people wouldn't think I just put water in a glass somehow. I mean, props to him. He decided to make the act even nastier just to dispel any doubt. His original comment went on to collect over 1,600 upvotes, and the story eventually escapes the community, being shared on r/bestof. A lot of people seeing it claimed that they were too grossed out to even watch it, while one claimed that they did watch it and vomited. Inevitably, there were accusations of it being fake, despite his best efforts to prove otherwise. I'm not buying it, and I'm surprised people are so quick to believe this video. Nothing like a little yellow Kool-Aid in a squeeze bottle to make the trick complete. But easily, the most insane is this in-depth analysis of the flow of his urine. Of course it's fake. The way he pees is totally unrealistic. It's just full strength without starting weak and building up. Then when he's done, there's no finishing off squirts, which are always required. Who pisses in one single uniform squirt? Lastly, unless he hasn't drunk liquids in 3 days, that shit ain't piss. These weren't popular opinions, but I couldn't not throw in the piss CSI. Paging Craig remained active for the next 4 years, and sometime after, he deleted the account entirely. This could have been out of shame, although the actual video remains up to this day. While it's unclear what he's up to these days, his legacy in the community remains. In 2012, the subreddit held a charity event called Breaking Good. It raised money for A Place Called Home to educate children in LA about gang violence and drug abuse. The organization was chosen by Luis Moncada, one of the Salamanca twins. To encourage donations, a moderator promised to film a sequel to Craig's video. For 9 more days, we are still accepting donations for the Breaking Good event. We are currently at $2,808.43, and if we can reach 3,000, I will pull up Paging Craig and film myself drinking my own piss. No joke. The campaign managed to exceed this amount in the final 2 days, and Edify was forced to follow through. Unfortunately, this video is no longer available and there doesn't seem to be archives, so it's impossible for me to independently verify this footage. But judging from reactions, it seems like he also wasn't drinking enough water. It's kind of crazy that there's not 1, but 2 documented cases of people drinking their own pee over Breaking Bad, and 4 people in total eager enough to step forward as volunteers. But it's almost admirable in a way. Not the act itself, but the fact that they'd actually commit to it. No one could have forced Craig if he refused. It's a real show of character that ultimately led to support for a good cause. And that's the story of the Breaking Bad fans who drank their own pee. r/squared circle, Reddit's wrestling subreddit, has a time-honored tradition of making wild bets over whether or not certain things will come to pass in wrestling. For example, SummerSlam 2016, Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler for the WWE World Championship. Were Dolph Ziggler to defeat Dean Ambrose and become the champion, one Redditor promised to put his legs up, spread his cheeks open, and butt chug an entire bottle of Tabasco sauce. like that one Boss Rutan self-defense video.
We choke him out, and then once he's choked out, we can do games like pull the pants down and hide the spice bottle.
Dolph Ziggler, of course, in true Dolph Ziggler fashion, did not win, thus saving this man's insides from blowing up like the Death Star. The same can't be said for Kalani49.
My name's Kalani. I'm gonna die.
Who, after losing a bet that Roman Reigns would fight Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2016, was forced to eat 5 habanero peppers. And Kalani, unlike most Redditors, held up his end of the bargain. But perhaps the most infamous r/squared circle bet involves Fall Out Boy, WrestleMania, and a tattoo of 9/11. I'll explain more in this episode of Tales from the Internet. So on September 29th of 2014, Fall Out Boy releases the song Centuries. Obviously I can't play it for you or this video is gonna get claimed and taken down instantly. But you definitely know this song. It was completely inescapable for a period of time. You know the one, it's like, remember me for centuries, that one. Even though it didn't exactly top the charts, it was just all over the place because it was perfect for sports events and commercials and TV shows and all that sort of stuff. So a Redditor named Man on the Moon comes to a very logical conclusion, and on November 2nd of 2014 he makes this post. I am more than convinced that this will be the Royal Rumble 2015 or WrestleMania 31 theme song next year. That if it isn't, I will get a tattoo of whatever the top comment is. Always a great idea to ask the internet for tattoo ideas that you'll be forced to do. And we get a lot of great submissions. Like Thongman X, who suggested he recreates Rey Mysterio's midriff tattoo that says Mexican. Campeon del Mundo suggests a picture of Nasty Boy Brian Knobbs' asshole. Or how about the bane of just about every online WWE fan at this period in time, Grimmy616's suggestion of Cena Winslow. But far and away, the top voted submission was by Stormclaw11. A depiction of Rusev kicking down the Twin Towers with the caption, "Never forget 3/29/15, the date of WrestleMania 31. Even went through the trouble of photoshopping it into a vaguely tattoo art-like style. This, of course, is a clear allusion to perhaps the greatest image ever made since the advent of photo manipulation technology. That, of course, being Hulk Hogan doing 9/11. Here's some high stakes right here. A tattoo of a wrestler kicking down the World Trade Center is a life changer no matter how you get it. If it's visible, you're never going to be employed again. If it's hidden under clothes, say goodbye to any semblance of a normal dating life. But what makes a bet like this interesting? So Man on the Moon is making a very, very specific call here. You got one specific song, Centuries by Fall Out Boy, to be used on one of 2 specific events. There's a lot of songs out there, so it seems like the odds are pretty bad of him winning this. But then again, this is the exact type of song that WWE would use for the Royal Rumble or for WrestleMania. Not only just in terms of how it actually sounds, but because it makes references to going down in history. It's perfect for WrestleMania, which during the promotion of they usually make references to the history of the event. Of any popular song that was going around at this time, this is the song that checks off every single box that WWE might be looking for a song for these events. But here's the thing, this was such a WWE song that they had already used it back in the previous month, October, for the 15th anniversary episode of SmackDown. That's gotta hurt the odds. Although, as a user named Hedgeslurp pointed out, there is some precedence for WWE reusing songs. In particular, I'm Coming Home, a song that is permanently burned into your brain if you were watching around this period of time, used for both tribute to the troops and WrestleMania 29. You've also got the Flo Rida songs Good Feeling and Wild Ones, which were both used for multiple pay-per-views. Hedgeslur posited that actually, because the song had already been used, it might actually increase the odds of it being used for WrestleMania. Depending on the contracts WWE had with the record label, it's very possible that he was on the money. So Sunday, January 25th comes around. Royal Rumble 2015. Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins. They start promoting the event, and the official theme song, completely different direction from what Man on the Moon or probably anybody else expected. Gonna Be a Fight Tonight by Danko Jones. It's a punky sounding hard rock song that's more like something you would find on like Road Rash 3D or something like that than any WWE event. So it looks like you got one more chance, Man on the Moon, or you're screwed. Can't back out now either. You had a bunch of other people pay the consequences of their lost bets. Can't have people on the internet who you'll never meet who have no idea who you actually are, thinking you're a sissy, right? Then you gotta get that Rusev 911 tattoo. But the thing is, WrestleMania tends to not just have one theme song. It usually has at least two, sometimes more, and then you got all these other WrestleMania tangential events throughout the week, like Access and the Hall of Fame. So you get a few shots at it. And we get to that stretch from January to the end of March. The road to WrestleMania. Every week on Raw, you got guys pointing at the sign. Every new week, you got new promo videos with new songs being used. Each new song like a click on the barrel of a gun in a game of Russian roulette. And finally, the two official songs of WrestleMania 31 are revealed. Rise by David Guetta featuring Skylar Grett, and Money and the Power by Kid Ink. Looks like it's time to pay up. Or is it? Whether or not Man on the Moon actually lost the bet becomes a bit of a controversy. So as I said before, WrestleMania isn't just WrestleMania. There's a bunch of other events throughout the week. One of them being the Hall of Fame. That year's Hall of Fame class, we got inductees like Macho Man Randy Savage, Rikishi, Alundra Blaze, Larry Zbyszko, Tatsumi Fujinami, Kevin Nash, the Bushwhackers, Arnold Schwarzenegger, as well as the Warrior Award for Conor the Crusher, a young Daniel Bryan fan who died of cancer and had the Conor's Cure charity made in his name. All kinds of music plays throughout this event, during the ceremony and between the segments. One of those songs being Centuries by Fall Out Boy. Man on the Moon. This totally fucking counts. In Man on the Moon's view, he won the bet. This song was used for WrestleMania as he had predicted. Of course, he gets a bunch of pushback on that statement though. You said theme song of WrestleMania 31 or Royal Rumble, not played in the background of the Hall of Fame, frowny face. You gotta get it, brother. Honor your word. No, it doesn't. You're still going to have to get that tattoo. Nope. Dude, it counts. This is like Stone Cold being Jericho and Benoit, King of the Ring 2001. And this leads to debate over what is actually considered an official WrestleMania theme song. WrestleMania considers any song they use for Mania to be a theme. They never have just one. I don't think that's true at all. They usually say the official theme of WrestleMania about a song. So in my view, I think he lost the bet. Alright, so he didn't say official theme song, but he said the theme song. Of which, for these events, we have a selection of 3 songs that WWE considers to be the song. That being said, I did see one comment by Murdank that kind of shifted my perspective a little bit on the subject. Anybody claiming the Hall of Fame doesn't count is a fucking idiot. Can you imagine the relief this man felt when they played that song? He maintained that he was going to get the tattoo and squeaked by on a loophole. Man on the Moon wins this bet, and we should all admit that the point he was trying to make has been made. Case closed. So I get what he's saying. Ultimately, the statement that he was trying to make with this bet was, as I had said before, that this song, Centuries by Fall Out Boy, is the absolute perfect song crafted in the style of what WWE typically uses for these events, so much so that he could almost guarantee that it would come to pass. And since the Hall of Fame is a part of WrestleMania week, the spirit of the statement that he made with this bet was true. And realistically, nobody was ever going to get a tattoo of Rusev kicking down the World Trade Center. Although, as many pointed out, technically he could have gotten by with just a tattoo of the URL. So what do you think? Did he win the bet? Did he lose the bet?
I don't know!
But anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, check out my video about Vince McMahon versus the Parents Television Council. And don't forget to check out my sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description.
Nescau prontinho, energia que dá jogo na lancheira do seu filho.
Vai de drive, define um valor.
O motorista parceiro aceita.
Drive, preço justo, jogo justo.
A new one, but there's so many different mouses out there, it's overwhelming the amount of choices you have. But then, I started to notice a few oddities. Turns out a design as simple as the mouse can be stretched in many different ways. So over the course of the last 40 years or so, some really freaking weird mouses have been made. So today I decided to buy a bunch of the weirdest mouses on the internet, and I'll be reviewing them throughout this video in order to find a proper replacement for this bad boy. But wait a second, what even is a computer mouse? While they were originally invented in the 60s, computer mouses actually started becoming commonplace in the 80s. Nowadays, mouses have 2 buttons and a scroll wheel, but back then it was as simple as a rectangle with a singular button. Wait a second. Oh, I gotta say it, man. One of my favorite classic mouse designs is Apple's Puck mouse from 1998. This thing radiates pure Y2K aesthetic with a transparent tinted plastic and its perfectly round and sleek shape. Eventually we figured out how convenient it is to have 2 clickies instead of 1, but then we thought, why stop there? And we just added another button in the middle. The 3-button mouse design became very common because many complex business software simply needed more buttons for convenience. We also added funny trackballs onto mouses that you can roll around to scroll. Eventually, the funny balls and the middle button were both replaced by the scroll wheel. But instead of stopping there, we also experimented with theming. Who even wants a boring gray piece of plastic anyways? An early example of this is the PC Pal's trackball mouse that has funny scribbles all over it. Look at the little goober! In my previous cursed products videos, I mentioned some SpongeBob mouses and Hello Kitty mouses. There's a SpongeBob water mouse and a square-shaped mouse that apparently has a spongy soft surface. Whatever that means. I really wanted to get this and try out the spongy soft surface for myself, but it's sadly way too rare to find. In my Hello Kitty video, I mentioned some Sanrio mouses like the star-shaped one for little twin stars and the My Melody mouse where you click the ears. There were also tons of Hello Kitty water mouses and this Hello Kitty head thing. For the first mouse review, I actually got myself a Hello Kitty head thing, and the first thing I noticed is that it's very small. The left and right sides of the bow are the clickies and the middle is the scroll wheel. This is very cute and seamless from a design standpoint, but oh my god, does it feel horrible to actually use. Because of its size, the majority of your hand is on the goddamn table instead of the mouse itself. It's a USB, so we can simply plug it in, and right away you'll see some blue lights glowing from inside. Most modern mouses use an optical sensor on the bottom that glows red when it's in use. And because of how thin the plastic is, the entire mouse glows when you move it, which is really funny. I tested it out a bit on the cute game Doom Eternal, and it was so freaking uncomfortable to use. Overall, I really like the theming, but I'll give this mouse a solid arthritis out of 10. Moving on to some more funky mouses, let's take a look at the Bunger Mouse! I freaking love the theming of this thing, it's just a goddamn burger! You can immediately tell how old it is because it still uses the 3-button mouse design with no scroll wheel. The one I got is heavily used, so you can see some scratches and the right click gets stuck sometimes. Also, I want to point out that mouses used to use a ball mechanism on the bottom instead of the fancy sensors we see today like on the Hello Kitty mouse. It's not really that comfortable to use because, well, it's literally a burger. It uses a serial port, so I hooked it up to an adapter and it doesn't work. I kinda expected that because serial ports are really outdated. Overall, I give the funny burger mouse 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip.
Oh, no. I want a number 9, a number 6 with extra deep, a number 7, and 2 number 45s. 1 with the extra cheese and a large soda.
At number 7. Speaking of burgers, if you want a full burger-themed PC setup, you can plug this thing into a burger.
Lembrando que eu quero fazer uma música com essa letra.
USB hub, cover your keyboard and custom burger keycaps, use the burger mousepad cover, and the official Burger King headphones. There was also the elusive, super tall burger mouse by the Japanese fast food company.
take your order, please?
Carl, what do you want? You gotta eat to keep your strength up, man.
Hey, I'll take a number 9, fat boy.
Give me a number 9, just like his. Let me get a number 6 with extra dip.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
Company Loteria. Only one was made to be given away in 2014, and whoever received it is unknown. I really wish there was a video of someone using it because it's so freaking tall. How does it even work? Loteria also did another tall burger item giveaway, but this time 2 tall burger USB sticks? Why do these even exist? Also, I'm really confused about how realistic these look. I wonder what they're even made of.
Falei errado, né?
I want a number 9. I want a number 9. A number 9 large. A number 6 with extra deep. A number 7. 2 number 45s. 1 with cheese. And a large soda.
Weirdly.
Bom, depois de estragar a garganta aí, né? Beber um pouco de água.
Enough, this isn't even the end of official fast food computer products. KFC also held a giveaway in Japan for a fried chicken mouse, a KFC keyboard, a massive fried chicken USB, and an equally massive fried chicken phone case. The fact that these actually exist somewhere is insane to me. The keyboard has a full-on Colonel Sanders statue and a differently shaped piece of chicken for every key. I really wish these were actually mass-produced because they're really cool collector's items. It's a shame they were only for a single giveaway. Moving on to some other food-themed mouses, there's also the beer bottle mouse called the Boozy Bottle. It has a custom brand on it called Double Click Brew and looks very unconventional to use. As far as I can tell, these 2 spots are where the clickies are. There's also the Tasty Cake mouse, officially branded from the Tasty Cake Company, who was known for making many dessert items. They themed this mouse after the butterscotch cream bits. This thing looks so funny, it's just a tall wavy rectangle. You can also have some candy with your dessert, so let's check out the funny M&M mouses. First up is this yellow one. The box comes with a funny mouse, a mouse pad, and a freaking floppy disk that apparently has an M&M screensaver on it. I'm sorry, but there's legit no way for me to put this thing in my PC. Hell no, we got the M&M save file icon! I actually found a video of the screensaver, so here it is. There's a few different screens of the M&Ms just falling, and then there's this one of them dropping into liquid chocolate. Also, the mousepad looks like he wants something from me. Moving on to the mouse itself, it's got a very seamless design and a kind of ergonomic shape. The eyes are the clickies, minus points for no scroll wheel, and he's got a goofy all facial expression. Also, the mouse is really tall for some reason. The box for this one comes with some cool art of the M&Ms just kind of hanging out. Also, it says it's supposed to come with a real pack of M&Ms, but whoever sold this to me on eBay freaking eaten them all. I also got a yellow one, which also didn't come with any M&Ms. Wait a second. No way, I found them! Why does the design for this mouse look so oddly suggestive? I don't know, man. M&M's marketing has always been freaking weird. The hands themselves are the clickies, and sadly, there's no scroll wheel. Because of all the 3D details and the overall flat shape, this thing is terrible to actually use. All of them use a PS2 port, so I hooked them up to an adapter and tested them out on some Ultra Kill. I also replaced the game textures with M&Ms to get in the mood. Turns out playing an FPS game with these weirdly shaped mouses was way worse than I expected. I'll give them like a 6 out of 10. The last food-themed mouse I found is the officially branded Nescafe Coffee Bean mouse. Well, kind of food-shaped if you consider coffee beans a tasty snack. Here's some insanely uncomfortable looking Lego mouses I found that come in red, white, or blue. These weren't officially branded by Lego and were discontinued a long time ago, but the real question is whether or not you were able to stack a bunch of them together. Speaking of rectangular mouses, there's also a few gold bar themed mouses, but if you want real gold, there's the Exovolt gold mouse that actually costs $600 freaking dollars. It has real gold plated over aluminum pieces. Another random mouse mouse I found are the mouse cursor shaped mouses. They don't even really look that bad, not gonna lie. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the pixelated mouse cursor mouse, which looks objectively terrible to use. Speaking of pixel shaped mouses, there's also 3 pixel art Mario mouses that were only released in Japan in 2007. You can clearly tell the designers put literally zero thought into the usability. The Mario one, you press the 2 halves of his hat. The star, you press the tiny eye buttons in the middle of the freaking mouse. And the Goomba just has 2 halves again. How did they think these were a good idea? There's also some Koopa shell mouses that look way too small. Do any of you remember driving around in these weird car things as a kid? Well, this one in particular is called the Cozy Coupe, created by the company Little Tykes. And one day in 1999, they released the official Cozy Coupe computer mouse. On the back of the box, we can see some other products they made, like this keyboard, a camera, a drawing tablet, and an entire freaking Little Tykes gaming setup. Okay, it's not actually a gaming setup, it's called the Young Explorer Computer Center, and I think it would be really funny if somebody hooked this up to a 4090 or something. Besides the mouse, the box comes with a Jumpstart Preschool music CD, a product catalog, a manual, and a thing called Junior Net, which I think comes with some games for kids to play. The mouse itself honestly has a really cool and unique design. You've got a little hood over your fingers, 2 cookies with L plus no scroll wheel, and the back has a license plate that says cool car on it. Even though it's made for kids, it still fits in my hand pretty well and is honestly kinda comfortable. Overall, I actually really like this thing. I would give it a 10, but no scroll wheel, so 9 out of 10. Besides the Little Tykes mouse, there's also an entire genre of actual car-themed mouses too. It's been a thing for a really long time because the shape of a car just kind of fits in your hand pretty well by default. Over on Amazon, there's a bunch of slightly cartoony looking wireless car mouses. Some look alright, but most of them are just kinda ugly. For some reason, this car has a massive British flag on top, and one of the ads for it says this: "There are 2 blue lights on the front of the car. They look very beautiful." They do look beautiful! Never feel self-conscious about your 2 blue lights at the front ever again, my beloved British car mouse. Unboxing my new best friend, first we take the top off, put in some batteries, and then I noticed that it kinda looks like a convertible like this, which is really funny. Also, this is the little wireless receiver it comes with. I put the hood back on, and now we can see the beautiful 2 blue front lights for ourselves. Trying out the ergonomics, it's actually not that bad. It does have a weird shape, but it just kind of fits in your hand. The 2 sides of the hood are the cookies and bonus points for an actual scroll wheel. It was only like 14 bucks on Amazon, it looks quirky and works as intended. 10 Big Bens out of 10. There's also some other car mouses that have far more realistic models and are officially licensed by real car companies. There's the Dodge Viper car mouse, a Camaro, some Mercedes-Benz, a Mustang, Corvettes, Toyotas. The quality of the models on these is honestly really surprising. If you showed me the Dodge Viper with no context, I would think it's just a normal model car. But that's not even the end of car mouses. There's also a bunch of NASCAR mouses modeled after real NASCARs, like the Dale Earnhardt ones, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and a Tide Pod NASCAR mouse? Why are there so many of these? And finally, there's the Hot Wheel car mouse, modeled after the Camaro Hot Wheel. Speaking of car mouses, why don't we check out the Lightning McQueen mouses?
Mater, I need your help.
There's one where the clickies are on the hood, and one with them on the back. I could only find the one with the clickies on the back, and it comes in a pretty cool box, which I will now destroy. The first thing I notice is how freaking small it is. It's literally smaller than the Hello Kitty mouse from earlier. I really like the model though. It looks really cool and has lots of nice details. The clickies on the other hand are incredibly low quality. You basically have to push down the plastic of the shell itself for it to register, which means pushing on the sides too hard also clicks, which makes it really finicky to use. The scroll wheel is also really tiny. I give this mouse a Cars 2 out of 10, which is saying a lot. Another Pixar character that got turned into a mouse is Buzz Lightyear. Look at him stare into your soul from beneath the helmet. At first, I had no clue how this was supposed to work, but apparently the entire helmet is a button that can be pushed left or right to click, which is terrible to use. It also just makes it so left and right clicking at the same time is impossible, so no more scoping in on FPS games. The ergonomics are also just completely non-existent, all the while this freaking thing is jutting into your palm. Also, even more minus points cause no scroll wheel. Easily the worst mouse we've seen so far, 2 out of 10. And if you thought that was bad, let's take a look at the Winnie the Pooh mouse. Now, when I said the Buzz Lightyear mouse was the most uncomfortable, the Winnie the Pooh mouse is arguably just as bad because, well, what the frick? The left and right clicks are his eyebrows, but the buttons are hidden under his skin, so they're incredibly difficult to press. Combined with the horrible claw grip you're forced into, the extra force required to click is a nightmare. And once again, extra minus points for no scroll wheel. I give this mouse 2 cursed Winnie the Pooh mugs out of 10. Continuing the trend of kids characters turned into mouses, mouses, there's also a Mickey Mouse mouse and a Mickey Mouse glove mouse. But if you take out the Mickey, you end up with just a mouse mouse, which is obviously a thing. It's such an easy joke to make. This one comes with a cheese mouse pad, which is kind of funny. He's so silly, love him. But this isn't the only animal-themed computer mouse. In the early 2000s, there was an entire brand called Big Eye Mouse that made a bunch of these mouses with huge eyes you click on, and they look really freaking cursed. They've got a cat, fish, ladybug, frog, duck, and a cow. I got the cow one to try out because, well... Unboxing the funny cow, you can see that it comes with a floppy disk for installing drivers, which I don't really need. The first thing I notice is that the eyes are always pointing up, which is really cursed. And if you shake it around, the eyes just start goobing out. This little gizmo is up to some tomfoolery! Because the one I got is used, the left click fully doesn't work, but the right click does, and it's really satisfying to press. The scroll wheel is abnormally loud, and because
É. Por hora tá pronto. Dá. Tirou. Tá aí. Tá feito. Agora só falta fechar o buraco que tá aqui nesse bolso aqui, ó. Prontinha para ser usado. Zagueiro. Encerrar a live por aqui mesmo. Ó. Vamos para concluir. Terminar de ver o vídeo e conclusões finais. Então. Ficou muito legal essa bermuda.
Because of its positioning, it's a little weird to use. If mine wasn't broken, this goofy gadget would probably be my favorite mouse so far. It's just so funny looking. I love him! So I'll just give him a 10 out of 10. At one point, it became popular to put little containers of water inside mouses. These were known as water mouses. It was a trend for literally any company to make these for promos, where they copy-pasted a basic water mouse design, slapped on some colors and a logo, then put an object in the water. There's basically infinite water mouses out there, because every single goddamn company did this. eBay, Snapple, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, Intel, Honda Power Equipment, Care Bears, Santa himself? One of my favorites is the Tic Tac one, where they just put a bunch of little Tic Tacs floating around. There's also the SpongeBob and Hello Kitty ones from earlier. The Crayola water mouse is pretty cool. But then there's just this one with an eyeball in it? Apparently this one is actually from an eye surgery company. And I don't think putting a human eyeball inside a mouse is a good way to advertise eye surgery. I've never used one of these before, and the only one I could find online was this one from the Popsicle Company. That has funny little popsicles floating around inside. There's not much to review about this thing. It's just a normal mouse. It's got a good color scheme, some cool water theming, and a perfectly normal and comfortable shape. I would give it another 10 out of 10, but it's kind of lame that it's just Popsicle branded. There isn't some crazy eye-catching theming like the other 10s, so I'll just give it a 9 or something. But before we move on, I'm just gonna play with it for a bit. Also, I wanted to see what happens when you shake it, so here you go. It's pretty mesmerizing to watch the bubbles settle down after shaking it. Actually, moving on now, there was a line of Marvel mouses where they turned a bunch of characters' helmets into wireless mouses. They've got some Iron Mans, Black Panthers, Star-Lord, whoever this is, I don't really care. But my favorite one is the Groot mouse. Why does this scoundrel look so wise and mystical? This is definitely one of my favorite mouse designs I've ever seen, but I couldn't find one that would ship in time for the video. There's just something so unsettling about the facial expression. Bro looks like he got a side quest for me for real. Jokes aside, the attention to detail on the wood theming is actually really well done, and even the ergonomics seem pretty good too. Even though I don't have one to try out, I'll still give this thing 10 wise mystical trees out of 10. They also made a baby Groot version, which is objectively worse. He has 97 mental illnesses and is banned from most public spaces. Star Wars also made a few character helmet mouses, but they're much older than the wireless Marvel ones. There's Darth Vader, C-3PO, a Stormtrooper, and a young Anakin Skywalker. They look really uncomfortable to use because they didn't adjust the helmet shape at all for ergonomics. I got a Stormtrooper one to try out, and the back of the box advertises some other Star Wars items like some mouse pads, a wrist rest, and a CD case. I tried using it for a bit, and I don't really know what to say about this thing. It's just weird. Like, it's not bad, but it's not good either. I'll give it like a 6 out of 10. By the way, recently Razer reskinned one of their mouses with Stormtrooper theming, which is kinda cool, and I found this meme about it. Bro, my aim is so bad! The mouse they are using. Another weird genre of mouses are the telephone mouses, where for some reason they just combined a phone and a mouse. Please tell me who the freak is out there being like, it's so annoying to take my hand off of my mouse to pick up the phone! It's such an oddly specific problem they're trying to solve here that doesn't really exist. Also, some of them just place the buttons right where your hand is already resting, which seems pretty counterintuitive. They usually get around this with a sliding mechanism or the flip phone style. A different way to solve this non-existent problem is with the telephone mouse pad. Instead of just setting down the phone right next to the mouse pad, you just had to buy a specific product with the buttons on the mouse pad itself. There's also calculator mouse pads because another pressing issue we all deal with is not being able to just place a calculator on the desk, and we just desperately need it to be combined into the mousepad itself. And you already know they thought this was far too convenient and just combined the calculator into the mouse itself and placed the goddamn buttons right on top where your hand rests. Oh my god. Okay, finally, let's just check out some sports themed mouses, like the basketball mouse that comes with a basketball court mousepad and the soccer mouse with the soccer field mousepad. There's also this surfboard mouse that has a really interesting design, but my favorite sports mouse is the golf ball mouse. It comes with a putting green mousepad and some funny little goobers to play with. The golf ball mouse has a pretty simple design, and the other goobers were a freaking nightmare to unbox. I could not for the life of me get the mini golf balls out of the packaging. I ended up having to fully cut up the plastic. There's a golf club, a flag to put on the mousepad, and some balls. I tried to play some mini golf with them, and it was interesting, I guess. The pieces are so incredibly tiny, and it doesn't come with anywhere to put them, so I guarantee anybody who bought this just loses them. The mouse itself is kinda lame. The plastic feels so cheap, I feel like it would explode if you gripped it too hard. I set up a funny little golf course, and I kid you not, I got a freaking hole-in-one. I'll give this like a birdie out of 10, I don't know. Well, that's all the weird computer mouses I have for today. There's probably tons of custom-made or just weirdly shaped mouses you've seen before that I didn't show in this video, and that's because I thought it was much more interesting to focus on the more branded ones. My heart will always be with the wise mystical Groot mouse, but I'd say my favorite one in terms of usability is definitely the popsicle mouse, but my favorite one theming wise is probably the cozy coupe. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and for all the support recently. We pretty much just hit 200k subscribers, which is insane. I know videos have been taking a little longer to make, but that's because I'm putting much more effort into them. So if you want to support me, make sure to like and subscribe and maybe even join the channel or something. I don't know, it's only like 2 doubloons a month. Also comment down below your favorite funny computer mouse and maybe some suggestions for more cursed products videos I should do in the future. Okay, bye!
É isso, a live fica por aqui. Eu tenho relativamente acordar cedo da manhã pra ir na piscina, então. Tchau.